Okay, welcome to ACT Prep Day 17. Your bell ringer activity is going to be to circle each rational number. Remember, if it's a rational number, it can be expressed in a fraction, and that way we can pinpoint it on a number line. Square roots are irrational unless they are a perfect square. So if you plugged it into your calculator, you would get a whole number. If you get a decimal, it's irrational. Decimals that go on forever without repeating, those are irrational. There's some famous ones you should know. I don't want to give a hint there. So pause the video, take about 5 to 10 minutes, work on the bell ringer activity, then unpause, and we will go over the answers. Okay, so now that you're finished with the bell ringer, you can see the highlighted answers are rational numbers. We can take the square root of 36, it's 6. We cannot take the square root of 11. We get a decimal point. That's going to be irrational. The negative square root of 21, even if it was positive square root of 21, it's not a perfect square, so it would still be irrational. Pi, that's probably the most famous irrational number. It goes on forever without repeating. No one's ever found the end of it. And then you've got the decimal there, the 0.37298,362, ... which means it keeps going on, excuse me, and nothing, sorry, and nothing's repeating. Is the square root of pi rational? Well, if pi is not rational, then taking the square root of it is for sure not going to make it rational. Because again, like if you look at the square root 11, 11 is rational, but when we take the square root, it's irrational. So if we take a square root of an irrational number, it's definitely still irrational. Okay, so today we're going to talk about midpoint. If you're taking geometry now, you've probably studied the midpoint formula. If you're taking geometry next semester, then you should have a leg up on it. So it'll make that section easier for you. So when we talk about the midpoint, this is going to be the halfway between two numbers or two endpoints on a line segment. This midpoint is going to cut the line segment into two equal sections. And usually in geometry, you're going to be dealing with it on the coordinate plane. So you're going to have the midpoint being an ordered pair. So you're going to have an x comma y, like a 2 / negative or 2 comma -3. Here is an example of a midpoint. We would actually call this, let's use blue. This would be, for those of you in geometry, line segment AB. It's given that this is the midpoint, and since it is the point in the middle of A and B, we would be able to say that these two sections are congruent. They have the same measure. So calculating the midpoint, the math is really easy. You add the two numbers together and you divide by 2. So it's just like taking the average. Now, you're probably asking, well, but if I've got an XY coordinate, do I add the X and Y together? No. When we have the two endpoints, you're going to have, like here, point A with X and a Y, point B with an X and a Y. And so, to find, if these are our new midpoint coordinates over here, so we're going to have an X and a Y, this is going to be that new X value. You take X of A and X of B, we add them together and divide by 2. And that new value is going to be the X coordinate of your midpoint. Now, for the Y, we're just going to add Y of point A, Y of point B, divide by 2, and this number is going to be your Y coordinate. Okay. Now, our ACT example. They're wanting you to calculate the midpoint. They're giving you the endpoint. So pause the video, take about 5 to 10 minutes, and see if you can come up with the answer on your own. Remember to use some of the little tricks that we have about eliminating, things like that. And then when you're ready to check your answer, unpause the video. Okay, welcome back. So the answer to this is we've got to use our midpoint formula. So we're going to add the two x's, 4 plus -1, and divide that by 2, which is going to give us 3/2. This is our x coordinate. And if you go over here, you can see that it can't be C, it can't be E, and it can't be D and E. So now I got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. And it also tells me that my y coordinate has to either be 2.5 or 4.5. So now let's add our y's. 7 plus 2 is 7 plus 2 divided by 2 is going to give me 9/2. And you know, 2 goes into 9 4 times. That's going to give us B, which is 4.5. Okay, so now you've got, this is our practice time for our ACT practice questions. So set your watch, set your phone, set your timer to 5 minutes for 1 minute per question. Pause the video, work on those practice problems in your workbook, and then unpause and we will go over the answers. Okay, so let's check our answers here. They're wanting to know the midpoint of BC, and they've given you the coordinates. So again, we just add the two x's together and divide by 2. So 2 plus 6 divided by 2. That's simple math, elementary math. 2 plus 6 is 8, divided by 2 gives me 4. So cannot be those three. Again, 50-50 chance. But it's such simple math, I can do 3 plus 0 is 3 divided by 2 gives me 1.5. I went ahead and did the y coordinate. I double checked it. Yeah, I know for a fact. This is one. Yes, I know I got this one right. Now, this next one is trickier because they're giving you the midpoint and one of the endpoints, but they're not giving you the other. So I like to draw this out. It helps me visualize it. This is A, here's point B, here's my midpoint. My midpoint coordinate is -3, 2. Yes, I understand this is a number line and I'm using 2 dimensions, but for the purposes of this, it works. If I had to draw out, you know, the whole grid and do all of that, that would take a lot of time. So since I don't know what B is, I'm going to give them variables. And I know B is an X and a Y. Follow your formula. So the formula is to add the two endpoint X's, so 0 plus X, divide that by 2, and that should equal the X coordinate of our midpoint, which is -3. And so let's get rid of that fraction on the bottom. We're going to multiply both sides by 2. It's going to cancel over here because 2 divided by 2 is 1, but 2 times -3 is 6. So our X coordinate is going to be -6. And when I go up here to eliminate, it's kind of nice. G's the only one that has -6. Now I'm probably going to go through and I'm going to double check my answer just to make sure I didn't mess up on my math here. And so if you do -1, let's do the y over here, -1 plus y divided by 2 should be equal to the 2 here. Multiply both sides by 2, and I get -1 plus y equals 4. So y equals 5. And again, yes, I know I got that one 100% correct. I've double checked it. I feel really, really, really good about it. Okay, now this last one, or this one here, again, we have midpoint and an endpoint. That's probably the biggest thing that you need to look at. So again, I've kind of drew it before. I'm going to draw it out for y'all again. Once you do enough of these problems, you tend not to have to draw it out as much. So M is at 2, -2. midpoint is at 4, 1. And so that means n is at x, y. So we're going to do our x's. 2 plus x divided by 2 equals 4. Multiply both sides by 2. And we get 2 plus x equals 8. Therefore, x must equal 6. And you probably jumped over here and went, oh, the answer's not there, because they're wanting you to add x plus y. So now let's get the y coordinate. For y, we get -2 plus y divided by 2 is equal to 1. So we're going to get -2 plus y is equal to 2. How did I do that? Again, I got rid of my fraction, multiplying both sides by 2. So then y is going to be equal to 4. So now they want me to add the x and the y. 6 plus 4 is 10. That one's just a little tricky. You got to make sure you read it all and get everything they're asking. So the next one here, we've got coordinates. We've got the endpoint. So this is one of them that's really, really kind of nice. You've got the endpoints, and you just have to add them together. I've cut it off just a little bit. So we've got the end coordinates 5, -2, and then 1, 3. So for the x, it's 5 plus 1 over 2. 5 plus 1 is 6, divided by 2 is going to give us what? 3. Okay. But I just did all that work, and it's asking only for the y coordinate. So kind of helps to read it all the way through. So now the y coordinate is -2 plus 3 divided by 2. So I'm going to get -2 plus 3. -2 plus 3 gives me a 1 over 2. So my answer is 1/2. And then the last one, again, I'm reading, they want the midpoint. So this is going to be an easy one again. Just add the 2 x's, divide by 2, add the 2 y's and divide by 2. So 2 plus 8 divided by 2 is going to give me 10 halves, which is 5. I can go through here and eliminate. Now, j is -5. So I'm going to be kind of a little leery, and I'm going to double check my work, because what if I messed up with a negative? I double checked. I feel pretty confident, but I can also make sure by adding my y's. And 7 plus 5 divided by 2, that's going to give me 12 halves. Yes, I know that one's positive, so it has to be h. So yeah, I mean, these were 5 problems. I could star all of them. I double checked. I know for a fact they're correct. Okay, so your exit ticket. Exit ticket on day 17 is going to be, this is an easy one. Hopefully everybody will get a 10 out of 10 on this one. This is one that really boosts people's grade. They give you 2 of the endpoints and ask you to give me the midpoint. Yeah, so that's pretty much what we've been doing the whole section. Again, I am going to start taking these up the first 5 minutes of class. If they are not turned in the first 5 minutes, they're going to be considered late, because you are supposed to be doing these on your day off, not when you come to class. Your days off are not free days. You are supposed to be learning at home. Okay, and some of you have not turned in these exit tickets and bell ringers, and they're going down to zeros. So make sure you are turning these in. Okay, all right, well, happy studying, and see you next class time.